So, lots of good stuff happening with the Moonkings. You released your second album, Mark II, I think the beginning of November. We are welcoming you back to London in about a week's time for a gig at the London Underworld. So, we'd like to really catch up with you since we last spoke to you a few years ago.
Yeah.
To find out, first of all, let's talk about how Mark II came together and what you felt were the differences with the first album.
Mark II came out later than I was hoping, trying to do. I wanted to get it out a year and a half ago, but I contacted Lyme disease a couple of years ago during the first tour. It took me about a year and a half until I got rid of it. I feel very fortunate actually. That
it's nasty, that.
Because a lot of people, they're gone for years, and that kind of moved the whole schedule up a little bit, because by the time we were ready, the studio was booked, and the engineer was booked, and then in the end, when we finished it, Mascot, our record company, I had to move the whole schedule too. So in the end, it came out a lot later than I was hoping. But the difference between the first and second album is, with the first album, we never played together. We didn't do any gigs, yet. And obviously we did a lot of touring the last couple of years. So as a unit, both on a musical and personal level, we got a lot tighter. And the other thing is, with the first album, my idea was to put out an album that sounds like you're with the band in a small club. Really dry and right in your face, and as if you're a couple of feet away from the stage. Because I was aware, or I was assuming that a lot of people would expect a big arena, Whitesnake sounding record. So I always like to do the opposite, And the same goes for the lineup, of course, because people were expecting me to get a couple of well-known guys and put together a super group. And I didn't like to do that, so I tried to do everything opposite from what people would expect of me. And with the second album, of course, that element of surprise wasn't there. It didn't need to be there either. And I wanted the album to sound closer to what we sound like live. So I went back to recording with my trusty Marshall amps, and for the first album I used smaller amps to make it sound small and punchy and stuff. And that wasn't. That's a difference. And the other difference, of course, like I said, we did quite a lot of touring, so you get a feel for what the strong points are of the lineup and the band, and the connection with the crowd and all that stuff. I don't do it too consciously though, I just kind of when I start writing, I grab a guitar and I start, noodling away, and I see whatever happens, And I do record a lot of ideas. I burp them into my iPhone when I'm walking the street or wherever. I go, it's a good idea, and then I give it a number or whatever. So it all comes naturally, and I don't make too many plans beforehand.
So I made a couple of notes on the songs. It's a great album, and you can hear the progression in there. So Tightrope, if we look at the opening track on the album, real punchy sound. As far as I recall, you went back to the same studio as for the first one.
No, partially, because we recorded the basic tracks in a different studio, which is in the middle of nowhere in Holland. And it has a great vibe. We recorded some vocals there also, but the guitars and the mix were done in the same studio as the first one, which is actually the studio where I recorded my very, very first album when I was 20 or something. And the studio was brand new, and it's pretty interesting to still record the same kind of music, blues rock based rock there,
And are you using vintage gear? Because I noticed when you played London last time, you had a lovely old Gibson. You had like a really antique-looking Marshall stack.
Yeah, I still do. Yeah, it's stuff has been around with me. The Les Paul, I bought it new in 1980, and it's aged by my own sweat and blood, and it's been around the world with me numerous times. I keep going back to it. I have a couple of Les Pauls that sound maybe even a little bit better, but for some reason I still grab this one. I recorded every track on both Moonkings albums on that guitar. It's basically my baby, you know. It's a sexy little thing.
And I noticed on tracks like the Fire is a great extended monster track as well, and there are lots of extended solos. Was there a conscious thought to kind of unleash more solos?
Yeah, well, especially the rhythm section, you know, because those guys are incredible players, Sam and Mart, and I asked them to just do a jam at the end of the song, and my plan was to turn it into like a fade out type of thing. What a lot of bands did in the 70s, you know, Zeppelin or whatever, where you kind of jam in the studio because it kind of bothers me a little bit that rock became so formalized, you know. It's all like a lot of records that you get never contain too much spontaneity in the studio because, you know, it's like all set. And with this record, I really wanted to expand on the spontaneity within this band because, for instance, we very rarely rehearse. For the album we rehearsed, I think once or something, twice. And then everybody just goes through it at home, and then in the studio you play it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and then that's it, you know. So you keep the fire and the spontaneity in there. So at the end section of the song The Fire, I asked the bass player and the drummer to just jam between each other, you know, alternate in licks and fills and stuff. And I just played rhythm guitar, and when I was planning to let it disappear in a fade out, it turned out so good that I thought, fuck it, you know, I'm just going to leave it all there. You can hear it by the end chord because we're not even playing the same chord at the end.
Yeah.
It sounds like a very sophisticated jazz chord.
And it's the same. The last track of the album, "Ready for the Taking." It's a great way to close the album.
Oh, great! Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
And coming back to Jan, your wonderful singer. I mean, he's really come into his own on this album.
Jan is amazing. Yeah.
"Walk Away," I think, is a song that really stands out for me in his vocal performance.
Yeah, he's amazing. It's just like when I tell people he's got a big farm in Holland, people go, what? You know? He does. We had a couple of shows, for instance. We played a festival 2 years ago in Holland for about 60,000 people. And Jan walked straight off stage in a stage outfit, got into his car because he was in a harvesting season of his farm in the summer. Yeah. He called me up about an hour later and he said, Adrian, he said, this is one of the weirdest moments in my life. An hour ago we were playing for 60,000 people. I'm sitting on my tractor right now. You know, he put on his overall and he's a singer of this quality. He's world class, you know. And no prima donna shit that a lot of singers have, you know, no ego stuff. He goes on stage and he belts it out, you know. Even when he's got a cold or a flu or something, he's got this farmer's attitude to go, you know, the job has to be done. And the first song you hear his voice being a little cloudy, you know, and after 1 or 2 songs, bam, he's back. Flu or not, or a cold or whatever, he doesn't give a shit, you know.
So do you have a favourite album track?
Well, I got a few. The Fire and Walk Away and If You Could Handle the Heat, the last track. That's the first track in my life where I actually decided to expand myself, because usually I kind of confine myself to tell a little bit of a story in a 20-second solo. This time I decided, you know, fuck it, I've never done it, you know, I'm just going to jam myself over the end section of that song. And with the same intention as what I told you about the drummer and bass player, I thought I'm going to let it disappear and fade out, and then I thought, fuck it, man, 2 jams on a record, it's great. And the end section of Reputation is jam also, you can hear it too. We just went berserk.
That's the second track, right?
Yeah, second track, yeah.
So, moving on from the album, let's expand the subject area for the last part here. Your artwork, in terms of you designed the cover, the logo.
Yeah.
Has doing all of that, has that inspired you to do more painting, or?
Well, no, I didn't have the time. But I did want to make the album artwork again, because I've always done it in every band that was my own, whether it was Teaser and when I was 20, that album that was recorded in the same studio, the Vandenberg albums. With the Whitesnake albums, obviously not, but the first and second Moonkings album, yeah, because I like to marry the two, you know. As some people know, I lived off my paintings, also the 10 years before Moonkings, but I financed the first demos of Vandenberg at the time as a graphic designer. I worked as a graphic designer for a couple of advertising agencies and you know, like publishers and stuff, and make drawings and design. So I like to marry the two whenever I have the opportunity to marry the artwork of an album with the music that I write. So yeah, I enjoy doing it because then you're sure that you have the two in a good match with each other. If somebody else would make the artwork, I'm not sure whether I would be as happy because everybody feels it differently. If you know what I mean, it's I have this vibe in my mind that fits with Moonkings and with the music we make. So I want the artwork and the logo and all that stuff to kind of match, you know.
And talking of matches, that brings us on to FC20. What's happening with the team? They're right at the bottom of the division.
I know, man, but they're crawling up. They actually beat Ajax a couple of weeks ago. So there's hope, but you know they went pretty much bankrupt. So the shitty thing with football these days is that whichever club has the most money, they can buy the best player.
Yeah.
You know, when I was growing up, same with everybody, I suppose. Your local club were local guys. So when I was growing up in Rotterdam, when I was a kid, I was growing up on Feyenoord, which is one of the two biggest teams in Holland, and they were all guys from Rotterdam, and they were opening bicycle shops whenever they had a time off and stuff. You know, it was much more organic. Right now, it's just you buy a great player from there, and that's a little bit of pity. But the thing is, FC Twente, my hometown team, I think they've always been at the best when they're all the way down. You know, from the underdog position, then other team go, man, it's those guys, they can't play, and then suddenly, bam, they hit. You know,
So a while ago, you recorded a song for the team. I'm thinking maybe now's the time for a new song for the team. What do you think?
Yeah, but it's not a bad idea. I actually had an idea to make a new version of that song because it's got a strong vibe to it and people like it. You know, maybe a different beat underneath it or whatever. Who knows?
And we can't spend any time together without mentioning Mr. Coverdale.
Of course, I'd be happy to.
So, great album you recorded, the acoustic album, Starks in Tokyo. Is there any thought of, I know he came back and did Sailing Ships on the last album.
Yeah.
Is there any plan to do something similar, where it's an acoustic type thing in the future?
Well, David, we've always, talked about sooner or later that we may want to do something like that, or a blues album or an acoustic album. You know, it has to fit with both our schedules, of course, because David is finishing off a new record now with Whitesnake. I just got this one out, you know. I suggested to David that it could be fun next year maybe, when he's finished touring America, to maybe do some stuff together in Europe, you know. I think it would be great because I could just jump on stage and play 1, 2 songs with them, and maybe we could do, you know, like Sailing Ships together, whatever, you know. It would be nice. It would be great, actually.
And I also remember from when we spoke to you last time, that you have some relatives over in the UK. Have you had a chance to see them this time?
The last time was actually, it's quite a while ago. My aunt unfortunately passed away, you know. She's my mom's sister, and she got kidnapped by a British pilot after the war. And you know, they live in Hereford, in a village called Leominster. And I used to go there when I was a teenager in holidays, you know. And my cousins played in bands and stuff. And apparently, one of my cousins was a drummer, and he once told me in those days that he had a couple of lessons from Simon Kirk, the drummer for Three, which is probably my all-time favorite band. So my nephew was my hero, you know. He was close to Simon Kirk.
Yeah, I was going to ask about this, kind of finish off on influences, because the first Vandenberg album was recorded at Jimmy Page's studio, Soul Studios. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and just describe, those of you who haven't heard the album, that there is that strong influence of the kind of the Page type riffing, and some of it sounds a bit like the sort of work he did on Coverdale Page album, ironically.
Of this album?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. I didn't think about it that way.
He's got kind of the swagger.
Yeah, I love rock. Rock needs to have a swagger for me, you know, because it has to have a groove. I'm not too big of a fan when it's too square, when it doesn't have a groove type of thing. You know, all the bands that I've loved, whether it was Free or ZZ Top or Led Zeppelin, it needs to have a thing, you know. I mean, John Bonham, jeez, he could play a kiddie song and it would still groove like a motherfucker, you know.
That's fantastic.
The interesting thing of the drummer in Moonkings, you know, when I got into the band, he was 21. He's been playing drums ever since he was 1 year old. His mom told me, showed me a picture, you know. And the funny thing is, John Bonham is one of the biggest heroes, and that's interesting for a guy his age, you know. He knows every lick that Bonham did, and at the same time, you know, he's got his heroes like the drummer for Foo Fighters. Mm-hmm. So he's like in between everything, and for his age, it's really amazing, you know. And he's got a groove, so the riffing that I come up with and the songs, I always bear that in mind, that we have the privilege of having a grooving rhythm section in this band, so we might as well take advantage of it, you know.
That's interesting. A quick comment on that is when I interviewed Michael Schenker a couple months ago, he said his favourite all-time musician was John Bonham, from his musicality point of view. So it's interesting that you said that as well.
Yeah, he is, you know, and he was such a musical drummer. It's such a pity that, you know, he's gone. And I do still listen to some Zeppelin, as you can tell on the track. There's never going to be a Moonkings album without references to what Zeppelin did and what the Free did, and I'm proud of all of my influences and I wear them on my sleeve, you know. It's always bothered me a little bit when I read interviews with heroes of mine, and they would say, well, you know, I can tell you're influenced by so-and-so. They go, no, I'm not. Of course they are, you know. Everybody has got influences. Nothing comes out of nowhere. I mean, Zeppelin, man, everybody knows by now what they kind of borrowed from certain guys, of course, you know. You let yourself, you open all the doors and you let yourself get influenced by all the stuff that you like, and you kind of bake your own apple pie from it.
So, in a week's time in London, people will have a chance to hear the band in action. They didn't come the first time round, so so Saturday 17th February at the London Underworld up in Camden. Album's great. It's out on Mascot Records, Mark II. Definitely worth a listen. Adrian, absolute pleasure talking to you.
Same here.
And we'll see you at the gig.
Thank you.
Cheers. All the best.
See you.